Unit fractions. Unit, again, vocabulary. Unit means single or one. So you're looking at a single item, a single piece, one piece of a fraction. So let's talk about that. In the previous lesson, we talked about how we divide items up. So for instance, if I cut something into two pieces, I make two pieces, and if I have one of them, I have one of two pieces. Now, when we're talking about unit fractions and we're talking about size, that's exactly what we're going to start talking about. We're going to talk about the size of one piece if we break something up. Okay. So in your previous lesson, you learned that as you continue to break something up, the more you break it up, one piece of four, the more you break something up, the smaller the pieces get. So if I break something into four and I have one piece of four, this piece is definitely smaller than having one piece of two. Because again, you have to remember, we're talking about just size. We're not talking about two different cookies. We're talking about the same cookie. We're talking about, what if mom takes a cookie and splits it right down the middle? What does that size look like? And then we say, well, what if she took the same cookie and instead of cutting it down the middle, she cuts it down the middle and then goes across and makes four pieces? What about the size of that single piece? So what we're doing is we're just talking about situations. We're not talking about that thing over there and that thing over there. We're talking about a situation. So if I divide something into four pieces versus two pieces, I'm definitely going to have smaller pieces. And if I continue to make that kind of division where I split and I make even more, and now I make eight pieces and I'm looking at one piece of eight, I'm definitely getting smaller because I'm taking the same thing and I'm just cutting it more and more and more. A lot of times people will think, well, if I have a cake and I'm inviting 10 people, let me cut it into 20 pieces. That way people can get two pieces. It's not like you're making more cake. It's not like, handing someone a piece of cake that was cut into 10 pieces. Is any more or less than cutting it into 20 pieces and giving them two of them. You're still dealing with the same cake. You're not fooling anybody. They can see that it's still the same amount of cake, whether you cut it into 20 pieces or 100 pieces. They're still getting, the pieces are still getting smaller. So when we talk about unit fractions, that's exactly what we're going to be discussing. Okay, let's go ahead and move into that and let's discuss unit fractions. Now, what they're asking us here is they're giving us two situations. They're telling us, what if you have one piece of 10? And they want you to compare that to having one piece of two. And they're saying, you have two situations. You have a situation where mom cut a cake into 10 pieces and gave you one of them. And then you have another situation where another mom took the same cake and cut it into two pieces and gave you one of them. So our question is this: these pieces, which one is bigger? And you get that answer by saying, well, if mom cut it into 10 pieces, then these pieces are smaller than if mom cut the same cake into two pieces and gave you one of the two. This is a lot more cake. Having one piece of two is a lot more than having one piece of 10. So I would say one piece of two is larger. A lot of times students will get confused. They'll say, well, wait a minute, Baron, the number 10 is a big number. And the number two is a small number. And what I'll tell them is, okay, maybe, but you have to remember what that 10 represent. That 10 represents the number of pieces And if I cut something into 10 pieces, that's very small versus cutting something into 2 pieces and then giving you 1. Again, if I show you pictures, cutting into 10, let me see if I can do that appropriately. I don't know if I'm going to make this happen. Let's see. Oh, that way, that way, that way. Let me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's it. I'm not very good here, but having one piece of 10, like if they gave me this piece here, hopefully you can say, well, if that piece there is definitely smaller than if you come over here and you cut the same cookie into just 2 pieces and I give you this big chunk over here. This is 1 piece. This is 1 piece of 2. This is 1 piece of 10. Hopefully by looking at that, you can easily say, yeah, wait a minute. By making more pieces, you're definitely making the pieces smaller. And I'd say, exactly. So even though this is 1 piece and this is 1 piece, the size that they were cut into is completely different. So remember, as my numerator gets bigger, it just means that you're cutting into more and more pieces. It means that each individual piece is getting smaller. So let's take a look at number 2. You have 1 of 3 or 1 of 6. Which one represents a larger quantity? Did you say 1 piece of 3? Yes. Having 1 piece of 3. Now I'm going to draw a picture, but you don't want to draw pictures every time. You just want to get into the mindset of what this actually means. So again, you're cutting into more and more pieces. It doesn't mean that you're making more. It means that you're cutting into more and more pieces. So having 1 piece of 3, that's a lot more than having just 1 piece of 6. See that? And I can get that again by looking at the denominators. Again, the larger denominator means more pieces. And the more pieces I make, each piece gets smaller and smaller. So let's take a look at number 3. You have something, 1 piece of 8 or 1 piece of 4. Which one is bigger? Did you say 1 piece of 4? Agree. 1 piece of 4 is bigger than 1 piece of 8. Look at the next one. 1 piece of 4 or 1 piece of 5. Did you say 1 piece of 4? Agree. Yes, again, remember, the bigger this denominator gets, the more pieces you are creating, which means each piece, each individual piece is getting smaller. Let's do another example. Example number 5. Look at all those fractions or those situations. Which one represents the largest quantity? Did you say A? Because that's correct. I know you're looking at 1,000, you're saying, God, 1,000, that's a big number. No, 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 no. You remember, you're taking the same cookie and you're making 1,000 pieces. That means that these pieces are extremely small. In fact, nobody's going to want to take a piece of that 1 of 1,000 because the pieces are so small, they're going to get upset. They'd rather have something that's cut into 10 pieces and you give them 1 of them. That's a nice size piece. Try again. Look at number 6. Which of these situations represents the largest quantity? All right. Did you say A, 1 of 5? That is correct. All the others are smaller. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and list them in order of largest to biggest. Largest, 1 of 5. Can you see the next smallest size? Did you say 1 of 8? Yes. If I had to organize these, the next one is going to be one of eight. What would be after one of eight? Next smallest. Did you say one of nine? That would be the next smallest. And which one is the smallest fraction up there? Did you say one of 12? Exactly. Notice that the denominator is getting larger. But again, remember, it doesn't mean that you're getting bigger. It means that you're creating more pieces. And the more pieces you create, the smaller each individual piece gets. Continue to practice.